Yes.
All right, Tets, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, I figure we could probably keep it in the whole Oriental, borderline magical realm. I kind of stopped playing a little bit of Monster Hunter because
What?
Dynasty Warriors 9 came out, and it came out without me noticing it, and almost a week went by before I picked it up.
Yeah, which is crazy because you're a big Dynasty Warriors fan.
Like, it snuck up on me because, like, the episodes, like you guys had mentioned, like it's going to be coming out at the early February, and I was like, nah, I'm pretty certain it's later than that. And sure enough, it popped up, and then I totally forgot about it because of Monster Hunter. But for the weekend, I ended up picking it up, and it's a Dynasty Warriors game. I mean,
This sound is not like it's
What?
sounding that great.
No,
But-
we finally ventured off into the genre of on-rail shooter in our Dynasty Warrior games.
oh my goodness. um, Despite it being that, they have branched out into the open world genre, and I think so far, and as far as I've gone, good job with it as best as they can for the precedent that Dynasty Warriors has already set. And what I mean by that is, it would be really weird to play a Dynasty Warriors game where you had 30,000 collectibles and you have all of these different side quests and, a main storyline that you can just kind of ignore and, items and da 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 da. Like, I don't feel like that would really keep well with the series, and I think that they thought the same thing. Because one of the things that they do, well, they do in it is the open world is dynamic. And what I mean by that, you have all of these major points, major cities, major gates, battlefields, all of the things that you remember from any of the other Dynasty Warriors games, like the battle at Saipei, the battle at Hulao Gate, etc., etc. But when you're on that mission, if you decide to go off on a tangent, and yeah, you can run around China's countryside and go help out peasants, and go hunt. You can hunt. They actually have introduced a hunting system. There still is a mild crafting system in this game, and so you can go off and do all those things. But while you're doing that, you know how in the other Warriors games you have that morale meter.
Yeah.
Okay, so and how a lot of times it's based off of officers are kind of still on the field per team and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in play on the grand scheme of things. So while you know where you ultimately need to go and where ultimately the boss for the level is, if you decide to go the opposite direction, he's going to keep sending his troops. He's going to keep sending officers, and ignore it long enough, you'll start to see the red just creep across China. And or on the turnaround is you can just go up there, capture a whole bunch of bases nearby, go do your stuff, and kind of keep coming back and kind of keep things in stasis a little bit. But if you totally ignore quests, you'll get a game over pretty quickly because position with sheer numbers. Well, based off of what it is.
Is it like some of the older games where like is it just to get to a point where you can't keep up with the numbers, or is it because they will eventually kill you?
A little bit of both. Because so in the main game, how a lot of times you would run into the case where you might fight like 5, 6, 7, 8 enemy named officers. In this case, 2 or 3 is going to be a large amount, and it's going to keep your hands full. Even on normal, I'm playing through it on normal right now just to give myself a baseline for it.
Okay.
It can be a bit of a handful, because each of those officers out across, because again, it being open world, there's a lot of different areas you can go and a lot of different things you can do, and so they will send officers out in most any direction. So while the numbers might not be huge at the one battlefield, across the entirety of the empire, Like it may way
Uh,
overrange. And then if you walk into a wrong battlefield with the wrong, items or whatever, not enough health and no healing items, you could easily get overrun and defeated. Like the diff. So you know how like Dynasty Warriors has handled their mooks. Their mooks are a lot stronger than in either Orochi Warriors or Samurai Warriors. Like their mooks, you touch them and they just evaporate.
yeah.
Dynasty Warriors still takes some effort to actually defeat the mooks. They've bit more, dialed it in a little bit more. You're still this like legendary warrior on a battlefield who can carve through 1,000 people no problem. But each person you fight still feels like they could easily drop you, if that makes sense. Like you can't just out of hand dismiss any one enemy on the field.
Okay.
So the
So,
challenge is there.
It's okay. So it sounds
Just
like
making it less hack and slashy.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Like you
Kind
can't
of,
just
yeah.
you can't just assume that just because it's a few like peons that they couldn't stagger lock you, kill you.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, you probably will still carve through them. You can still treat it like the hack and slash, but it takes more thought than previous Dynasty Warrior. Well, really, a lot of any of the other Warriors games in general do.
Okay.
So it's a step in that direction. I wouldn't say that it's tactical necessarily. It still is pretty much of this officer who's larger than life, who is wading through seas of enemies until he sees his enemy officer on the other side of the field, and they just ignore everything else because they're ants at their feet. That aspect is definitely still there. They haven't lost that. More thought to how bad it would be if you fall face first into a fire ant pile. I guess is a good metaphor to give it. They're still ants, but they're going to hurt you a lot more, and they can they have a much easier time screwing things up for you, so the enemy officer beats you. I guess is kind of the way to put it.
Okay.
People say that they think that the open worldness is a bit thoughtless, like they didn't know exactly where they were taking it, and I kind of disagree to the degree. Like if you're expecting hidden items, collectibles, mini quests that you can find everywhere, yeah, it does feel a little empty. But again, it's still about like the grand scheme of battles. It's still about focusing on where your troops are and how best to position yourself to help out your troops and your fellow officers, more than it is about go help this random farmer find his pig because they need meat or whatever bullshit fetch quest that open world games give you. And that's coming from somebody who loves open world games. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we've
The
talked
olden
about that before.
MMO filler quest.
God.
Those aren't really there. I mean, they kind of are, but they're very mini. You can always skip them, and they give you like maybe 100 XP a pop. Like it's so easy just to like.
I got actually a question for you, dude. For the characters, do they all still have like the original weapons, or have they kind of rehauled the system? Because they said they did rehaul it, but they didn't say to like what extent.
So yes, on both. The weapons are still kind of the same. So far, I've only played Shu because Shu is my favorite kingdom, so that's who I always go through first. But actually, I couldn't start like on the first level, despite having Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Feng available. I could only choose Liu Bei, and so I'm playing through him, and I just haven't switched over to the others, despite unlocking them pretty quickly. But he handles a lot better than he did in Dynasty Warriors 8. His moveset's different, but part of what that is, you have the whole square is a light attack, triangle's a heavy, circle is your musou. But now they have these things, and I think they call them attacks or something like that, where if you hold R1, you can then press triangle, square, X, or circle to do a certain type of attack. So like R1 triangle is an attack specifically designed to sweep your opponent up in the air and allow you to start juggling combos. square stuns, X knocks them down, and circle is kind of a mini muso thing that doesn't rely on your muso gauge, but it still has its own timer. And so they took away in Dynasty Warriors 8, they had the weapon attributes of man, heaven, and earth, and how those all interplayed. Like heaven, I think heaven beat man, man beat earth, earth beat heaven, I think was the order. They took that away. Have 7 gem slots on your weapons that you can attach these different gems that do different abilities, whether it's elemental stuff, gives you bonuses to riding. And they only come into effect reactionary attacks. So if I put a gem, say, in my juggling move, it's not going to activate until I do the juggling move.
Okay.
In addition to those 4, you also have, like, if your opponent's attacking you on a certain type of attack, you can hit triangle and counter them. There's assault, because there is a bit of a stealth aspect that they added to it as well. So if your opponents haven't seen you yet in your hit triangle, you can crouch and sneak up to them. And if you get up to them without them seeing you, you can then execute I think they call it an assault attack, or I think it's an ambush attack. So that is another one of these reactionary attacks. So it's more like they've given you more options of things to do, but these gems, you can then customize those attacks to play into your battle style. So whether you want to do a slow, heavy hitter, a fast character, somebody who specializes in juggling, because I think like I have one gem that causes them to bounce in the air, so I attach that to my knockdown. So now every time I knock them down, they bounce up in the air. I immediately do my up air swipe, and then I can juggle them for days. So there's a lot of customization into each character you can do based off of these gems that you find. And going to the crafting, you can actually find scrolls to craft these gems. So mechanically, it is different, but it's not unfamiliarly so. It's more like they've added a few more bells and whistles that don't feel excessive. Like they feel very natural. I feel like I think they very much flow into the feel of the game, the aspect of the game.
How has been the frame rate? How is that? Because I mean, this is open world.
No problem with frame rate at all.
No.
That being said, so the game is also jumping into graphics real fast. The game is gorgeous for a for a Warriors game of any kind. The graphics are amazing compared to them. It's not like Monster Hunter World. It's not going to be winning any awards for its graphics, but compared to what we expect and what we come from in the Warriors games, they've definitely upped their game. That being said, if you're like on your horse and you're charging through the land, suddenly a tree might appear in front of you because it was outside of render distance. So like the render distance for like trees and buildings and stuff isn't as far as I would necessarily like. So sometimes you can get caught off guard by those.
Really?
So that's a little bit more where it suffers. Or the blades of grass may start getting a little fuzzy. So it's not so much that it stutters frame rate wise as much as it doesn't render everything might could.
Okay.
As soon as it might could. That's totally good English. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's not bad though. Like it's not like at a earlier gen level of it. It still feels fine for what it is, but it's not. Again, it's better than previous Dynasty Warriors, but it's not going to be winning any awards anytime soon. It is computing all of those battles that are going on under the hood, because like you might be somewhere and you'll suddenly get an alert that so and so defeated so and so, and it'll show you on the map where it happens, and you realize that's on the opposite side of China. So
you walk.
Oh my god.
There is fast travel in the game under certain like these campsites that as you
What?
fast travel.
Do you also like? Do you still level up your weapons, like where you would get a better version of the weapons, and it's got different
Yes.
abilities on it? Okay, so that's still there as well.
Yes,
Um,
I haven't seen because I haven't gotten far enough into really like I think I've stacked two different weapons where it was just the EX version, so I don't know how far the weapon trees go.
okay.
I think that the weapons themselves cap what kind of gems can go into them. So
I
like the
got.
stronger gems need stronger weapons.
Oh, okay. So there is like gem levels then. Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the open world is really different in regards to how I mean it's not staged. It's there's no stages in one. You're running from place to place, um, and the like. How does that work with the storyline? Do you eventually get plopped down in like a portion of the map, or could you start the yellow turbans and opt instead of dealing anything with the yellow turbans, just run up to the northern part of the full game world for no
Yes.
reason? Okay.
You can. Yeah, it lets you do that. Now, again, the yellow turbans will start expanding rapidly because that was like the first thing I tested. And then before I knew it, I turned around. I'm like, how the hell are there yellow turbans here? Fuck. like,
Okay,
um,
so
but
that it does go through. Like, will they conquer all of Japan? Like, if you just let them be, they will just conquer all of Japan, or not
uh,
Japan,
I was
China.
gonna say I don't think so, but
They
mostly
will
because
build
Japan isn't in
ships,
this game.
go across the seas.
I mean, that might happen after they conquer China. No, but where it starts doing the levels, they call them chapters, but they're essentially levels. Is are in the map. The characters that are available for you to switch out to, and where most of the major battles are happening. And then again, those. So, in addition to having the side quests, you have sub quests under the main one. So that would also obviously be affected by which chapter you're
Do
on.
the wait, but do the chapters mean then like you're relegated to a section of China?
No, if
Okay.
you wanted, you could run to the totally opposite side and just ignore it. Go
So then
fishing, go hunting.
is the map just like really big then, or is it small? Like, is it Skyrim size? Give
It
me.
so honestly, I think it's larger than Skyrim because
God.
I've gone a large distance and I haven't gone a fourth of the like I haven't covered a quarter of the map, north and south or east and west, and I've gone a large distance in the game. That being
So
said, so like in the case of kind of going with the yellow turbans, and the very next event that would happen is Dong Zhao's taking over of Luoyang. In the yellow turban stage, he's actually in the kind of where you're starting. He's in the southeast, like he's from Luoyang. But then once you beat the yellow turbans, you get these kind of cutscenes and everything, and it kind of fast forwards a little bit of time, and it does the whole scroll over, overlay that they do between and any other Dynasty Warriors game.
okay.
And then
So
now Dong Zhao is in Luoyang. The Yellow Turbans leader, I'm forgetting his name now, but he's totally not on the map at all. Yuan
okay,
Shou
so
is in a different place.
they do kind of fast forward the. All right.
But
Yeah.
it's more kind of repositioning where people are to match what the time frame of this particular mission is.
Okay. All right. So
I,
it's not like full on real time.
but what they do is any part of the map that you've uncovered in previous missions stays uncovered.
Okay.
So between the two, like if you decided to put off dealing with the yellow turbans and you go and you uncover the entirety of the map to the taking out Dong Zhou, he you might be on the other side of Luoyang, but you could instantly fast travel to Luoyang and go immediately take him out because you've uncovered that bit of the map. Take a long time to do all that, and I don't think it would necessarily be fun because I don't know how much stuff is going on around there, outside of the where the turbans were. But you theoretically could.
Okay. Okay. That's that's pretty
Now,
interesting. Do you have like I know you've only started shoes, so I don't know if you'll know the answer to this or not. But like, what about when you choose a storyline? Does everybody start at the same time period or the same battle, or does it kind of like does it do it more where it follows that character, or does it follow that kingdom?
I think it follows the kingdom, so I don't know. Like all of the kingdoms start with a Yellow Turban Rebellion, but I don't know if they have all of the same missions because, again, like they all are involved with um, Luoyang, except for Jin. The Jin Kingdom had no connection whatsoever to it, so I haven't looked in their stuff. But it would be odd if they would have that mission option, just because they didn't do anything there. That being said, like there was a mission for Shu where when Cao Cao tries to assassinate Zhou and fails, where you have to go rescue Cao Cao. And I went ahead and checked the Wei's missions. Played the mission before that as Cao Cao trying to infiltrate Deng Zhou's inner circle to do the assassination attempt that led up to doing Cao Cao. So there's definitely that connection in the same way that I think any of the other Dynasty Warrior games have done, where you have some of the same battles just from the different sides. But I don't think it's going to be 100% the same exact missions for every single
Okay.
And again, I haven't done a whole bunch of research into the other kingdoms yet because I always start with Shu whenever I play a Dynasty Warriors game.
I know this is eventually a game I might pick up or at least, try out at some point in the future, but having an idea of it is that like would be it's good to know. It's like it's good to know some of this stuff because I don't know, having seen some of the stuff, having seen some of the reviews for the game, I don't know if I'm really sold on this being the future for Dynasty Warriors.
It needs some refining, but in the same way that every time a company tries something new, it's very much they're trying something new, and you can see that. It's not so new where it's losing truth of what Dynasty Warriors is. Like it still keeps to the spirit of the games of the genre.
All right.
So yeah, I could easily see this being the future of it. It just needs some polishing.
Yeah.
And you can even see back when I did my review of the Samurai Warrior Spirit of Sonata, that they were testing some of the things that they're doing in this in Spirit of Sonata.
Really?
Yeah, like kind of the way that they're handling the crafting, some of the ways that they handle like the hub cities, leveling up like your because you can even level up your horses, and even if you buy like two horses that are the same type, they might develop differently based off of not only how you use them, but there's a bit of a random chance where they might level up differently. And they did something sort of similar in Spirit of Sonata. So there's you can kind of see where they've been trying some of these things.
Very cool. Yeah.
And then similarly, because one of the things I loved about Spirit of Sonata, they took the battles, and it wasn't just like one battle that actually in reality was like 6 or 7 on one small battlefield that they just threw together. They made these multi-battle stages. In this, it's just because it's open world, you can see where each of the battle sites are. And if you complete one battle site in a certain way, maybe this particular battle may not fully come to fruition, or maybe people who shouldn't be there will be because you at this previous battle. So
All right. I'll have to get my hands on it and try it out, and we could talk about it and see how I really feel about it after I've gotten a chance to really play it. But
You'll be
I
sad.
think you've
It isn't
answered.
Hyrule Warriors.
It's definitely one of those.
Hyrule Warriors is perfect. It was perfect.
Well, now you'll get to
One of
play
those,
the
if you
remastered version.
enjoy, if you
God.
enjoy Dynasty Warriors, I think you'll enjoy this. If you're iffy, it may, or if you kind of enjoyed them as something just to kind of fill up time, this may or may not be your cup of tea. That's kind of my stance.
I've actually, truth be told, generally the games I play nowadays are just the Empires versions, just because I like at least a little bit more strategy that's put into them as opposed to just like follow the fight. So,
and the way that they handle the different battles, it starts to bring some of that in there. It's still not strategic in the way that the Empires games are, but
that's
it
because
does
the
pull
Empires
some
don't
of
do
that.
their own thing. I mean, the Empires
Right.
really are. They're like it really is like its own thing. It's just. Plus, I love the
Yeah.
character creation for that. But gosh dang it, who doesn't love it? So.
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right. This has been episode 43 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes, SoundCloud, and topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Check us out on Twitter. We're at Podcast5R. Facebook, we're at P5R Podcast. Meta's got a stream. They're streaming stuff. You've been streaming a lot of Monster Hunter lately.
Actually, yeah, I've been really addicted to it, and I'm gonna stream what I like to play. So,
Twitch.tv/PSOFlow. And Mal and I have been, of course, streaming and putting up on the YouTube channel our Pokemon Silver Nuzlocke challenge. We're at 3 deaths. So
Yeah, we just had a session with no death.
yeah, I know it was really nice after the session
Prompto.
before where we got pursued and Prompto got sacrificed to the Nuzlocke gods. He's the hero we deserve, but not the one we needed, or something like that. So yeah, now we're rocking with we got our party built up and we're in the coasting part of the game at this point.
Yeah.
So we might not die till the last gym. So
Yeah, we'll see.
yep, check that out if you want to see some Nuzlocke action. But until next week, we are out. See you guys then. Bye.
later.